this one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock.
Welcome everybody to episode 15 of the Bond Chronicles. I am the lovely, gracious, enjoying this summertime that we are in, host Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter and at Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram. And I am here with my host who is off screen.
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram, Ms. Bond Chronicles on Twitter.
That was actually smooth.
It was.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Just had to get her off camera for us to get that clear. So for all YouTube people, you will see something a little differently, which is perfectly fine. For everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for giving us your time and attention. So we had a bunch of big news that came out by the time that we recorded this that we're going to get to. So first off, we want to give a RIP to Earl Simmons. His album has been out, I believe, a week or two now, and because of
like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So because of last week's episode, we did not get a chance to speak to the album, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions in it. And since then, we've actually had a couple other albums come out, and although we are not by any means a music podcast, we do enjoy music, and we do tend to report big events, and so
especially for music artists that we like, people that we like. Other people should get on the wave, I guess.
Yeah. So to that point, we're going to review a couple things and then get into some other stuff that I think is relevant for today's episode. So first, the album, DMX's album review. My first question was, how much was done while it was with us, and then how much was done afterwards, because this seemed to come out very quickly after his passing. So I would like to believe a lot of this was already done and there was just some final touches. I know the internet didn't love it, definitely not as much as I did. I really appreciated it, I enjoyed it, but the internet had some feedback feeling like it was rushed. I didn't really get that feel. I thought...
I was going to say, because the Versus was last year. His Versus was last year.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like, there's been, like, rumors that he was working on an album, but then you saw proof that he was working on an album. And so I would say maybe they pushed the release date up just because, you know, they pushed it up because he was probably already going to release it this year. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the album was done before he died.
So I know, in just, again, using the internet, reading things, there was the thought that, you know, typically people go back and tweak things, and obviously that opportunity may not have been there, but overall I liked it. I thought the album cover or artwork was pretty straightforward. It was just X with his tattoo of Exodus 1:7. So for me, that was thought-provoking as to why that was the album cover. And so when I went and I read what scripture this was, it says...
You didn't know it by heart?
No, not at all.
I'm just messing.
It says, but their descendants, the Israelites, had many children and grandchildren. In fact, they multiplied so greatly that they became extremely powerful and filled the land. So in learning about the plethora of children that DMX had and his mindset and ideology, I thought that was a fitting, one, tattoo for him to have, and then two, for that to be so prevalent on the album cover considering his untimely passing. So getting into the... Oh, did you have anything on that?
No. I thought the album cover was dope, befitting of him. It's similar to his other album covers, so I liked it.
Great. So, getting into the album, 12 songs, pretty quality content from that perspective. It started with a Lox intro, which had everyone on it. I thought everyone did what they were supposed to do. Gave us that old Lox vibe. I would say this whole album had the feel of old DMX.
It was very nostalgic to listen to, and not just because he recently passed away, but just, I mean, throughout the whole album from the start to finish, like, it was old DMX. It wasn't him trying to fit in with what the new people were doing. It wasn't him trying to change to, whatever. It was DMX, and I appreciate that.
I agree. So, given who he chose to work with, and I'll get into that a little bit, I wasn't sure kind of what the feel would be. There was a nice variety with some older artists, some more younger current artists, and so he started off with obviously the Lox intro with everybody on it, hit hard. Then he followed that up with a Jay-Z and Nas song. I personally thought Nas' verse was the best on that song. For me, I think, which was a good rebound for him, considering most people felt like Jay-Z's verse was the verse on the Khaled album that most people talked about.
Jay ate on that song. He did. Like, Nas's verse was good, but even we saw, like I think on Instagram,
video.
Nas heard the verse, and then he called Jay and was like, dang, I want to redo my whole thing now.
So I agree. I think that's just Nas's, not MO, because he gets a lot of respect.
Facts.
But I think there's a lot of times in certain situations I feel like he gets overlooked, and I personally thought he went with Jay just as fine on that song.
Facts.
Jay's verse had the more memorable B, other B, and then another B, which I guess was the talking point from that verse. But I thought Nas' verse was solid. But on this song, I thought Nas was most memorable for me. Then we followed that up with a Wayne verse, which I definitely didn't anticipate.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And
it was a good Wayne verse.
And so, go ahead.
Because we just had this whole discussion.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
We just had this whole discussion about Wayne. That's not his bag anymore. Mm-hmm. And he did his thing. Like, I was very happy. I hope this is a sign of more things to come. It seems as though now that he's not under the pressure of the deal with Baby, that he's about to flex a little bit, and I am here for the flexing.
Absolutely. So we've definitely seen more and more Wayne. He's been popping up a lot of different places, and he is holding his own, to say the least. Next, another surprise for me was Moneybagg Yo was on the song, and I don't have the track listing here, but it was the fourth song. I thought the hook on this song was really solid, really engaging. But I think when this was the first, no, outside of the intro, but this was where I felt like X excelled. He had an artist that, like, Jay-Z and Nas don't rap about the stuff, the DMX stuff. They did at one point, they no longer do. So I feel like this was a good play off of one another, even though Moneybagg's obviously a newer artist and from a different, really, generation.
Yeah.
But the content was still, it bounced off of each other well. I wasn't surprised, I guess, knowing the relationship, obviously, that Swiss and Alicia have. So to have her on this, I think she was the only female artist on this. I thought the song was okay. The intro, and it's nice. It came in pleasantly. But for me, it was the lyrics of the song that really resonated with me. DMX, and for me, this was kind of a transition in this album. Out of kind of the harder stuff into maybe more of a softer, more reflective, emotional aspect. And so I thought she did okay. I don't know if this is who she is now, or
I don't know. Like, I listened to it and I didn't really feel like she didn't really give me anything.
She didn't.
Like, it was nice to hear her voice, I guess, and the sound of her soft voice against his rough one. I don't know, but like, they could have put someone else on the song and I would have been just as happy.
Right. So I don't know, and so that kind of speaks to the point of, obviously in his passing, it seems like by all accounts, Swizz Beatz had kind of like final approval, and I could see. Well, no, I won't even say that because I like the song. I like X on the song, but to your point, they could have swapped Alicia with a number of people, and I think the song would have been.
But Jasmine, I think, would have possibly done the song a little more. She's got more.
I mean, if we're doing big names, we could have went with a lot of people. Her, SZA, Jasmine. I mean, there's a lot of people that, considering where we had been as far as like top tier artists and features, Alicia wasn't.
I'm just thinking the like you said, the lyrics of the song, just the way that the passion that Jasmine brings to a lot of her music.
Yeah.
She did the Smoking Gun with Jadakiss a few years back.
Yeah.
And Jasmine doesn't live that life, but she doesn't. Well,
her last album, she said those weren't all her stories.
No, facts.
So she's proven she can sing about stuff.
Yeah, that's not necessarily relatable, but still have that same passion as though she lived it, walked in her own shoes through that struggle. So Jasmine would have been great on this song.
Agreed. The biggest surprise for me came on the next track with Bono.
I was so surprised. Like, I literally, like, when he started singing, I was just like, what is this, Bono? Who did that? How did that happen?
And
I would love to have been a fly on the wall during that recording session.
Like, I would like to hear where that connection came from.
Facts. Like, how did that happen? Who made that happen? Bono on a DMX song? I
would imagine if Bono felt like we felt like, DMX must have reached out. I would imagine. And for me, that was probably my favorite beat of the song.
I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, of the album.
Not beat. I think this is one of my favorite songs, period.
For sure.
On the album. Like the lyrical content, the message in the song, Bono, DMX, like that. It's like a legendary mashup you didn't know you needed.
I would have never thought that those two would do a song together, especially not at this time. Maybe, like, Bono's Bono, but he's not what he was maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Same with DMX. So for them to get together now, I feel like that was one of those things where DMX said, who's that one person you want to work with that you've never worked with? And it's like, Bono.
I feel like that's a lot of these. Like, somebody asked him, you're working on an album. If you could get any of these people, who would you want on an album? And he threw out some names, and they made it happen. Because even like the Griselda,
but that makes sense. Because that's New York. They're gritty. Like, that to me wasn't. And I knew ahead of time that they had been in the studio together. So I was waiting for that song, and that to me made sense. Like, New York, drill, gutter rap, like, that was and it worked well.
And then I think that's, again, the thing for me that I was not necessarily surprised with, but just, again, appreciated the fact that, again, DMX was DMX was DMX.
And I would say that was probably I think his best verse of this album. Like, that was him. That was vintage, classic, whatever you want to call it. That was him.
Yeah, for sure.
And so then we get to the next song, which I think
I don't even know. Like,
oh man,
I was thinking it was gonna be something soft,
like Beautiful or something.
What was the one song of his from back in the day? And it's my jam. I can't think of the name of it. It was not, and it's not the song with Cisco. What They Really Want? No, not that. Not that. It's gonna blow me if I can't figure it out.
Well, while you look for that, I will. So we both were listening.
I was going down.
Okay.
When it came on, I was like, maybe it's gonna be that same vibe.
Yeah.
And then he started rapping, and I'm just like, is this supposed to be a love song? Because I'm missing. I don't hear that in this song.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I heard it come on. I knew Snoop was on it, and it is not at all what I thought. Content wise, it was
absolutely not. And then we were trying to listen to it when the kids were taking a nap, and then Courtney comes downstairs.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh no, we gotta pause.
Yeah. And it was the skit was before that.
Oh yeah.
So the skit was
this
intense.
A lot. It was a lot.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to the full skit, and I'm okay with that. Because to your point, we had to skip that. But the song, it was the song. Not what I thought was coming, but fitting for that to be kind of the gangsta thug romance version of DMX. So.
But in that, for what it's worth, that's what he said. Is like, this is how I love. This is it.
He did
this
say
is what
that.
you're gonna get, and if you don't like it, well, I already got what I wanted anyway.
There you go.
So, and then I guess just in contrast, the way Snoop came in, all smooth, cool daddy, like, you know, he talk his stuff all slick, and then he just leave.
Yeah, but even his message was
it was still not.
It was in line with.
It wasn't a love song.
It was not a love song at all. So that was just not comedic relief, but it was just an interesting choice of song and content. Towards the end, the song with the son, I didn't realize because I saw it said on the, what do you call it, like the track listing info, that it said Exodus Simmons, and I was like, that's not his real name. And then I realized he was his son. So I thought that was really touching. It kind of had, a lot of this album had the feel of a final album without being marketed as a final album.
Yeah. And then obviously for him to have passed away.
Right.
Like, and speaking specifically to the song with his son, like, you know, as a parent, even now you look back and you think about the decisions that you make, the things that you do that impacts your child's life, and you hope you're making the right decisions. You hope you're doing the right things in hopes that you raise a good person who becomes a good person to the world, you know, productive citizen, whatever that may be, who is prepared for the world, who's open to have great relationships and all of that. And there's been plenty of songs like this, but just to listen to him admit his faults in raising his son, and hoping that with his later children, he made some better decisions. But to be able to admit that he was in a place when Exodus came, that he wasn't ready to be a father. There was a lot of stuff going on. He battled with addiction throughout his son's life, just all those things that, you know, on the other side of, people always say, like, on the other side of 50, you realize, okay, most of my life is behind me now. And you're looking back, and it's just like, if you've lived a good life, obviously you're looking back at all the great things, and you're looking forward to all the rest of your life that's full of more great things. But when you've lived a life like DMX has lived, you have to look at that and take account for your shortcomings. Right. And it's super vulnerable for him to get on a song and, you know, speak to that.
For sure. So no, I thought that was a really it was well done. And I couldn't imagine like our kids reading about what our lives were like when we were young.
Good night.
Like, I've done a bunch of dumb stuff.
But it's not publicized anywhere.
But it's not publicized. And I did that with little to no money. So I can only imagine, had I had the money and resources to do and live the life that I wanted to live, like, and then my kids have to grow up during that or hear about it and read about it afterwards. Like, that's the part that's really tough in a lot of these situations with these entertainers or celebrities, that their kids not enough get talked about, but what their lives and the impact that their parents' decisions have on them.
Facts.
And so for him to, like you said, get on the song and just be transparent, like, it's fitting, and I'm not surprised that X would do that, but I thought it was good to hear. We finish up with the Usher track, which I thought Usher did what Usher does. And then finally, the prayer, which is fitting because that's one of the most memorable things about Earl Simmons was his ability to pray.
Any of his albums, like
Yeah.
Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, I think has my favorite prayers of his on there. I think there's one that was either before or after Slippin', whatever album that was on. Like,
I think that's Dark and Hell is Hot.
I'm talking, yeah. It's just, again, you know the life that he lives, you know, and it's not just the image he portrays. Like, he is who he presents himself
100%.
to be, 1,000%. But to have that image, that character, whatever, but then still have such a deep reverence and respect and love of God. Like, there is no doubt in my mind where DMX went in the afterlife. I'm very positive one day I'll get to meet him up in heaven.
For sure.
It's just that within itself to me made the album beautiful. Because again, he is who he is. He makes no apologies for it. And it was just touching.
Agreed. So to start with the locks and ending with the prayer, I thought it was well put together. I enjoyed the album. It's unfortunate that this will likely be the last we'll hear, unless, you know, there'll be a deluxe at some point with some of the maybe songs that didn't make it. But again, rest in heaven, Earl Simmons. But it really, because of the way in which, for me, it broke down to you started out really hard and you ended really soft, it prompted me to think about the impact of emotions in artists and their music. So really where I wanted to go with this is, we see specifically artists as entertainers, as a lot of times larger than life, as a lot of times, as the Mike Jackson album was called, Invincible. But definitely. But they're not. Like,
not at all.
They're humans that deal with stuff that they're unprepared for. Like, there's no book on how to be a parent, let alone a celebrity parent. There's no book on how to be married and stay married, especially when you're in the public eye and everything you do is scrutinized or taken out of context or just flat out lies, and the stress that has on a relationship.
Yeah.
And then there's not a lot of people that you can trust to go to because you don't want to end up in the news.
You don't end up in the blog. And I think, especially in today's society, where you have so much access to celebrity, that people forget that you don't necessarily, it's not, what is it? You feel entitled to know every single thing a celebrity is doing or saying, or, you know, all of that. And they don't have to share anything with you. Like, as an artist, I make my music, I talk to you about my music, you know, I go on tour, I share another part of me, if I'm an artist that does interviews, you get to see another part of me there. But beyond that, there's no real requirement of me to have an Instagram, for me to have a Twitter, for me to have a Facebook. Like, if you have, there are people that can manage my fan page and put out other little tidbits of things about me and my life. But even that stuff, it's what I choose to share. But now people want more. They want it, and not just the good stuff, obviously. They want the dirt too, so they can drag you and judge you and have an opinion on everything you do. Like, that's why I always say, like, I'd be more than happy to be rich, but I don't need to be famous. I don't want people digging through my trash. I don't want, like, screenshots of conversations that I had 15 years ago to pop up on, you know, social media. Like, there's so many things that you have to be conscious of now as a celebrity that you didn't have to 20 years ago.
So yeah, on its surface, I agree with you 100%. There is a level of entitlement. I think one of that is society today and the way in which it's structured and the level of access and transparency and authenticity that we expect to have from everyone. But that's not reality. What most people put on social media is not their real life. Mm-mm. It is a image that they want to project to gain likes and attention, and there's a bunch of scientific studies on what likes do to the brain and all this other stuff. My struggle with the lack of access or celebrities, this, that, and other, similar to, like, I'll use an example of, like, Kyrie Irving, who, phenomenally talented individual, like, great basketball player. But when fans are supporting you with their financial resources, there is a level of access that they want. Specifically when, I'll go back to, like, artists and creatives, especially when it's time to start promoting. Now you want to be on TV. Now you want to be on social media. Now you want to jazz up all this hype to get people to come out and support whatever it is you're doing. But at the same time, you also want the ability to shun them and be secluded. I don't think they work at the same time. I was going to say that. I don't think they work congruently. I think you have to take the good with the bad.
But why?
Because as a fan, if I'm going to go out and spend my money, if I'm going to go out and spend all my time and effort to support your lifestyle, I think I should be entitled to some of that.
Time, like, what time and effort? Like,
if I'm sitting down listening to an album, if I'm
that you
flying,
would listen to anyway.
Maybe not. Like, so, case in point, and I can speak for myself and I can speak for others, there's been time I've interacted with people that were creatives, and when the interaction was bad, I did not listen to them or support them anymore. We actually are going to get to that to a certain extent in a little bit, but people that are jerks, people that are rude, people that do things that I don't support, I don't support them.
But, and so again, like you're saying, in an interaction with a celebrity, how frequently are you interacting with celebrities?
Me, like, never.
Right. And so, in that same vein, you could have caught them on a bad day. 100%. You could have caught them on a day like they just had the worst news, a bunch of bad stuff is happening, and they're trying to get from point A to point B. But there are fans, there are cameras, there are this media, all of that, when it could potentially be one of the worst days of their life. And your expectation that, as a fan, is for them to put all of that aside, put all of that humanity aside, and sign your autograph, cater to your desire to connect to them more. When they put out music or they've done something that makes you appreciate them as an artist, but again, there's a lack of appreciation for these people as people. Like me personally, I would love to meet J. Cole. Like, I would fangirl out. I would lose it. I don't think I would pass out and cry or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure I would lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was rude to me, I would be pissed. You know, like, I would feel away. But at the same time, I'd be like, it's okay. I'll get over it. And I'm going to still listen to his music.
So, stay there. So, you've told me multiple times of your interactions with Wale.
Yeah.
That didn't impact how you view him?
It did, 100%.
So that's my point.
But I still listen to his music.
Wait.
I mean, I don't listen to it avidly, but there are quite a few Wale songs that I think are super dope.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but
I'm not, like, out there checking for his music.
To that point, like, I've unfollowed certain people on social media, and that's my way of pulling back my support, because they're just jerks.
Yeah.
And I just disagree. I think, do you need to stand in line for forever signing autographs all the time? No, I'm not saying that. But I think there are certain levels of access that people expect. If I'm spending $1,000 for a backstage pass, don't let me get back there and you be a jerk.
And typically, that's not the case. In situations like that, where they obviously, people have literally paid money, they're standing around waiting for the 5 minutes, because that's really all you get when you spend, even when you spend that kind of money. You get 5 minutes, a handshake, introduce, and a picture for however ridiculous amount of money.
Facts.
Typically, they're only doing so many of those a night, and they prepare themselves to do however many of those they have to do in a night. I'm talking about specifically your one-off, you're out somewhere and you see a celebrity, they're in the middle of a meal, and you go up to them to take a picture. They could be out with it. Like, what was that Eminem song? I'm just out eating the streets trying to feed my daughter to not come and speak fully. The lyrics to that song, like, a lot of celebrities feel that way. More often than not, I'm positive.
Right. I mean, I'm sure most all of them do. That's why they go in the back and they have security and all that. I'm not speaking. So we're talking about two different scenarios. I'm talking about, generally speaking, you should have access to celebrities if you are helping fund and support their lifestyle. Again, I don't think you should be able to run on the court. I don't think you should be throwing popcorn on them. I don't think you should be spitting on them. I don't think
that's a whole different thing.
Right. But those people that pay that apparently felt, I'm entitled to do this because I paid to be here. So no, I think there's levels of extreme, but I don't think as a celebrity, you just get to hide off. Or if you're like, who did the verses when it was just him and friends? D'Angelo. Now, if you're just out of the spotlight, cool. Be out of the spotlight. But don't stay out of the spotlight and then all of a sudden you got something coming and now you want to jump up and, hey, everybody support me, support me, support me.
How many interviews does Jay-Z do? Like legit interviews.
He's done a number. He's done stuff on Letterman. We just saw him on The Shop. There's a lot of clips of Jay-Z. He did the thing with Roger Goodell and the NFL. Like, he's done a decent amount.
Nah, bro. Like, in a year span, and I'll even let's go back to 444. He released 444. He did like 3 or 4 like major interviews around that. Him and Beyonce, they went on tour, and then he disappeared. Then the NFL thing happened. He did that interview. I think he did a couple interviews around that. And then a bunch of other things have happened. Like, he's done, this year alone, he's done like 4 or 5 major deals. More like moving a lot of money, making a lot of big player moves. And he's done how many interviews talking about them?
I mean, we hear about them through usually his company and publication. I'm not sure where you're going.
So you're saying, and Jay-Z, his life is funded by fans, like
yes and no,
to an extent.
Like,
but even
he's sold, and I don't think he's a good example for you, but I'll let you continue.
So then Beyonce,
you're talking about the best of the best.
Lady Gaga doesn't do a whole lot of interviews. Like,
but they do press when it's time to promote albums. The only person that now, if you want to use Beyonce, like, she just dropped I think it was Lemonade out of nowhere. But most people do some kind of press, or their press is their social media, or their press is their websites or magazine articles. Like, just, I
think maybe we are talking about different things.
I'm not saying you need to do interviews every day and be on all these TV shows. What I'm saying is, if you want to jump out there when it's time to promote you and you want us to support it, there has to be give and take. And I believe Jay-Z has seen that. And typically, he's put out a bunch of music this year. Not a bunch is relative for him. But I've seen Jay-Z a lot of places. They were just at the Nets game tonight.
Yeah, that's seeing him in places and him talking to the press or it's different.
It is, but it isn't. Being seen, when you're Jay-Z, you know you're going to be seen. And that's when TMZ can follow you and there's a brief blurb or excerpt, or people close to such and such a talk, like that happens. And he's good at it. And he's out there. When Obama was running, guess who was out? Jay-Z was out. When stuff goes down, he speaks. J. Cole doesn't speak a lot, but when the album came out, we got an interlude, we heard a little bit more. He started on the Pro Basketball League thing. The album's out, now it's quiet.
No, he's not. He's got stuff on his YouTube. He's been dropping, and see, again, we follow different things, we follow different people. But so then in that case, I'm happy with, then I'm good with that. That makes sense. To have, like, for what it's worth, like, Kim Kardashian's always on social media. Like, so when she drops something for Skims, that makes sense. You're always out there. And if he's doing that and he's continuing that, then I think that's a good thing in general. But that's the only thing. And we've been on this probably far too long, and I don't know how engaging it is, but if you're going to be a celebrity, I think that comes with it. You're going to get people that talk to you at dinner, and there's going to be certain expectations that you are more accessible, whether it be through OnlyFans now, which is a big thing, Instagram Lives, whatever it is. Like, you don't get the luxury that other people get because you got fans, and that's what they want. So I don't even know how we got there, because that had nothing to do with where I thought we were going to go. No, because it was like, nah, go ahead. It's cool.
So, my point, and where we're trying to go with it, is emotion in music, specifically music. Does it matter the headspace that an artist is in, whether it be a woman being in love or an artist being in a good place in life versus a bad place in life? And do you think one place of life makes better music than the other?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
I think, obviously, as a creative, it goes hand in hand. When you're happy, you sound different, you look different, you move different, you glow different. It's totally different. Everything about you. So obviously, whatever your aesthetic is that you produce is going to be different. And that's not just music, that's like literally art, writers, everything. Like, it matches your mood. And then when you're in a dark place, that dark place is reflected through the things that you produce. And personally, I don't say one is better than the other. Like, what was it? Everybody always references Mary J. Blige, because, let's see, what's the 411, My Life, and my mom would be so disappointed in me. Because she used to play this album all the time when I was a kid. Share My World. Those 3 albums, like, you went through some of the highest highs and the lowest lows with Mary. And a lot of people always say then she got happy and music changed and it wasn't as good anymore. And even now, like, she got divorced. I think she's been divorced maybe a couple years now. And everybody's just waiting on the album. And they're waiting because they just know it's going to be fire. Keisha Cole, like, she married Boobie and the music changed a little bit. I still thought it was good. Then they broke up, and she been going through it with the young dude she had the baby with. And then she did the verses, and that was just a hot mess.
Not good.
And so people waiting on the album because it's like, it's going to be fire. But she ain't dropped nothing yet. There are a lot of artists that wear their emotions on their sleeves. And it's directly reflected in their music. And then I guess depending on where you are personally in your life, the kind of music that speaks to you more. If you're in a place where, I'm not going to say you're necessarily depressed, but you're looking at your life and there's a lot of things missing from it, emotionally, physically, you're probably going to relate to the songs where the people are talking about the things that you feel. Whereas when you're in a happy place in life, you don't want to listen to a bunch of sad music all the time. Like, it goes hand in hand.
So, I disagree completely.
What?
Specifically, and you use Mary as an example. I'll use a couple others. Obviously, huge Joe Budden fan. I think let me preface it like this. If you make emotional music, I believe negative emotion comes off better than positive emotion. Eminem, when Eminem was really down, Eminem made much better music. And there's a couple others that I could think to that when they were, even like drug rap. I'll use Jeezy. Like, I liked his last album, but street drug dealing Jeezy was better than Rich Jeezy. I think Jay-Z's transitioned probably the best.
And I think that's what is the difference is in what you're really saying, because you're talking about being able to make a certain type of music that fits a certain type of mindset versus transitioning into a totally different person altogether. Like, Jay-Z is one of the few artists of our generation who literally started off making drug music, and now his bars now are completely different from the dude on the corner 20 years ago. Jeezy, he just started this whole transitional thing, and it's like what was it? What was the last album before this most recent one? It wasn't Thug Motivation, whatever.
It wasn't Recession 2 or Restoration, something. I thought it was an R. I don't have my phone.
Whatever. That last album, that was still like the trappy, I sell drugs music. And then he just stopped making music, and then the next album he dropped, he's a businessman. Like, there was no transition. People did not know what to expect. It was just kind of weird. Again, I appreciate the transition and where he's going. Obviously, growth is a thing as a person. You want to grow. You want to evolve as a person. But there was like no transitional music to get your mind ready for what it was he was getting ready to say to you. Whereas Jay made like 4 albums that helped him transition into what we see today. Like, he dropped the Black album, he was like, oh yeah, I'm done. But then he came back out with the Blueprint, and although he was still talking slick about what he used to do, that's when he was just like, but let me hip you to this new stuff that I'm on. Y'all can, if y'all want to listen to OJ, go listen to OJ. But that's not what you're getting anymore. And then Watch the Throne. Like, he wasn't talking about selling a bunch of drugs and all of that then.
Real quick. So I think you're really making my point. And that, I don't think anyone thinks that, I don't know, 444, well, that's not true. So 444, and what else has he done? That's not his last album. So Magna Carta.
Yeah.
I believe most people think that's one of his worst albums. 444 was a good album. It wasn't Blueprint. It wasn't Reasonable Doubt. It wasn't some of these other classics of Jay. It wasn't Black Album. So yes, you can still transition to make good music. Jay is the exception. When you use Jay-Z or Beyonce to make a point, like, that's not real. Like, those people aren't the norm. Those are random ancillary exceptions that I don't think really qualify.
You use Jay-Z, and I was just expounding on.
I said he's one of the ones that has done it best. But even still, old Jay-Z to me, and most people, I think, in our age group, like old Jay-Z better. They like old Jeezy better. They like old T.I. better. They like old Lupe better. They like old Kanye better.
I don't like old Kanye better.
So...
I mean, but again, like, and I know that's a rarity. Like, I like all of Kanye.
I do too, but what was the album? Like
808s and Heartbreak?
No, I know, because we know I'm not. But, like, Kanye's probably not. I'll give you Kanye. Because Kanye's made great music. Jesus, didn't love it the way I love the Graduation, Late Registration, others. But even My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was really dope. The one he did with, I think, Kid Cudi, Kids See Ghosts.
That was super dope.
Really good. Wasn't as good as the first ones. Lil Wayne, same thing. A lot of people would argue Drake's early stuff before he got super successful, even though Drake is talking that stuff now. Typically, when you're in a tough time, the hunger, the grit, the desire is there, and you hear and feel that in the music. And then you get successful, you can add Nelly to that, you could add Outkast to that to a certain extent. Granted, Speaker Box Love Below
was fire.
Was great. But after that,
they broke up.
And no, because
they went and did separate things.
Yeah, and it wasn't the same. So I think history has shown us, one, it's just difficult to keep up that trajectory. But as you get more successful, the hunger and passion, the skill doesn't die, but the hunger and passion does. And when you talk about female artists, we look at Meg. Like, Meg...
Ain't no hot girl summer this year.
Meg quit, basically. She's been partying, I think is her name.
Yeah, party. She dropped the album, won all the awards, and now she out.
She ain't featured nowhere. I ain't heard Meg do nothing but be on the internet. For what is up, Cardi? Like, she'll drop a feature here and there, but for as hard as she worked to get to that point, I think she's only put out, one studio album?
One studio album.
But she got in her situation. And we get features. We ain't getting no albums.
We ain't getting another album out of Cardi.
And
it's not, in personal opinion, it's not going to be as good. I think
it'd be really hard to be as good, but her features lead me to believe she can still put out a good album. But for whatever reason, we ain't got it. So I think even DMX is another one that it was, obviously it's refreshing to hear the positive aspects of his life. But once we got to like Great Depression and some of those other albums, it just wasn't the same. Now, he was going through a ton, but I just think it's different. So I want these people as humans to be happy. But as a connoisseur of their music, maybe I wish they weren't as rich or as happy or as in love.
So you want them to be miserable so that they'll keep making good music for you, the fan who wants access to everything.
Yes, that's a fair assessment.
Do you hear how selfish that sounds?
That's what I am as a fan. What do you mean? If I could do it, I would, but I can't. When I became a fan of yours, this is why I became a fan, because you sounded and talked this way.
But why can't... And so again, my question for you is, as a fan of this person, why can't you be happy with them and evolve with them and your appreciation for the art that they put out for you?
Because it's not as good.
Why isn't it as good?
I don't know.
Because
I don't make it.
No, but that's the thing. You want them to stay.
No,
that's exactly what it sounds like.
You can be happy, but rap happy better.
No, because you literally just said the person, that sounds this way when they're happy isn't the same person that they are when they're upset or pissed or they got all the money or, they didn't have any money or whatever. So you want them to go broke and then have the hunger all over again?
I don't know. But I'll tell you this. When J. Cole got on that album and started talking that trash because he felt like he'd been disrespected, I tell you, I liked it.
But again, so for me, as a fan of J. Cole from way back,
it's not what he said; it's how he said it.
But to me, it's like I appreciate how he said it, but he's been saying it for the last 10 years.
It didn't hit the same way.
But you ain't been listening to
it. It ain't
him.
just me that's saying that.
But
everybody that's been listening to this J. Cole is like, yo, he talking.
But but those are the same people who didn't like KOD. Those are the same people who felt a way about 2014 Forest Hill Drives.
So you're making my point.
I'm not making your point.
The song, the music was better when he got angry and started talking that stuff the way he's talking it. Which is why more people are listening. The fans, you're always going to love it. But for us, those of us who wasn't really feeling him, now we feel it.
You weren't feeling him, but you never really listened to him before.
I did listen to it and I didn't like it. I mean, that's not true. I did. It's not that I didn't like it.
Go ahead.
But it was forgettable for me. In relation to the other stuff that was available, I've listened to almost every J. Cole album at least once. Because I recognize who he is and all the hype that surrounds him.
That's not true, because when I played one song for you off of Cold World, you had never heard that song.
Okay.
You didn't know that he did a song with Drake. Like,
I didn't. I've listened to it and I forgot about it. Like, okay, that happens. I remember Lights Please. So I've listened to Cole since then. That freshman class, I've listened to most all of them. However, over time, stuff gets forgettable. I listened to it once, didn't hit me. I move on.
Right, because you want artists to sound the same.
No, I don't.
That's what you're saying. If you can't make the same sound.
No, because Wayne don't sound like Jeezy, and Jeezy don't sound like Luda, and Luda don't sound like Rick Ross. No, but I liked all of them. I liked Cassidy. I liked Jay-Z. I liked the Nas.
What I'm saying is you like an artist to sound a way. And if they don't sound that way consistently, you don't mess with them. Regardless of whether they're a better person, they're doing more for the community, they're living better lives.
I don't care about any of that. You're right.
Right. You want them to You can want them to continue to make a certain sound for you to still be pleased with them as a fan.
I think that's how most fans view music.
Well, then that means, to me personally, that means most fans are trash. Like,
so we're trash because we liked you better when you made better music?
No, you're trash because you liked them better when they were in a bad place making...
They made better music then.
So go back to the trash place so that you can make better music.
Or figure out a way to make the real good music from the music you made then from a better headspace. Mm-hmm. Like, even
most
some
people can't do that though.
Well, that's a them issue.
No, I mean, like...
But even this, like, the Jay's verses for this year, they sound... He say some cool stuff, but they sound lazy. I did not like his flow and delivery on the... Whatever the Nas song is, off the Khaled album. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't love his flow and delivery on the X album. Mm-hmm. I did like the Black Panther song he did with Nipsey. Mm-hmm. But even that flow, it was lazy to me. He was saying some stuff. He had his cadence right, but
it was lazy. I don't even understand what that means. Explain that to us, please.
So
we want to know. What does that mean?
It sounded like I rolled out of bed. I'm just gonna go do this because I'm talented. It didn't sound like if this song don't hit, I'm not getting out the streets.
But why? He's not in the streets no more.
But that's my point. That's the urgency. That's the delivery. That's the passion that I'm talking about. You need.
You shouldn't have to need that throughout your whole career.
That fire should never go out. That passion, that intensity, DMX for the most part still had it. But even that, it was kind of like exhausted on this last album. And he still tried to go there, but it wasn't the same X. Jadakiss and he still spit.
Yeah, but they're old now. They out of breath. Like
so you're making my point. So it's not the same. That's why we like the older stuff. Because the passion was there.
No, so the difference between you and I is I like lyrics. I like a good wordplay. I like anything, to me, not anything, because they're just, Mm-hmm. But I like things that sound good. And I'm not going to say cadence and delivery isn't a huge issue for me, but if you're over a nice beat and you're flowing well to said beat. But not only are you flowing well to said beat, but what you're saying is fire. I don't care if you don't have the same burning desire for success now than what you had 20 years ago. Because what you're saying to me is more important than how well your delivery is. You listen to, you don't listen to, but people listen to like Migos, and I like Lil Baby. Like I am a fan, but I would really appreciate if I understood more of what he was saying in his lyrics.
But you got to keep listening.
I do listen.
But
I do.
So
that
and
was
then
why like Moneybagg Yo, like I like him.
So when we listen, that's why when I listen to their album, and I agree with you. I wish he articulated and enunciated better. But if by your standard, if you're talking about what people are saying, if you read, and that's what I did, I wanted to read what he was saying. He's talking,
and he is. But for me, if delivery is an issue, the fact that I have to read your lyrics while I'm listening to them to understand what you're saying, to understand that you flowing, like, to me, that's a problem. But to you, that's passion. And
that's not true. I haven't referenced Lil Baby as a go-to of these people. But I tell you, I like old Wayne better. When Wayne was Carter 1, 2, 3, 4, I liked 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying better.
Then what? The Massacre?
Yeah, for what it's worth.
Why?
It was better.
Why?
The content was better. The passion,
because the Massacre came out not that long after Get Rich or Die Trying, and he wasn't on like he's on now.
No, but and I would say the Massacre was probably his last good album. And after that, he still was making music.
Oh, we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Okay, I'll be right.
You're not right though.
Y'all can tell me if I was right, and if you like music where people are really happy-go-lucky and twiddling their thumbs, or if you like them passionate and fighting for their next meal. And
fighting for their next meal, right?
It's
like
better.
That's ridiculous.
It's not. The music is better.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's alright, you entitled fans. It'll be the reason why people stop making music.
They're not gonna stop making music. If it's what you love, it shouldn't matter whether the fans are there or not.
But that's the thing. Like even
so do you not really go ahead.
So even J, like most recently we were listening to J. Cole talk about his determination to make this album or to put out any music after this. It's like I've done pretty much everything I set out to do. I've topped all the chart. I've sold out shows all over the world. Like, I've done it. So what's my driving motivation at this point? At this point, it's to see how much better I can do it, or have I really dug as deep into my bag as I possibly can as an artist, as a rapper, as a lyricist, whatever, and put out something that I really, really like, love. This is it, like all of that. That is the natural, and then for what it's worth, that's a natural evolution of a person, period. Whether you're an artist, whether you're a doctor, a scientist, a teacher, whatever. You get to a point where if you've achieved every goal that you set, you look and you're like, well, I need something to help motivate me to continue to do this thing that I'm doing. Have I reached a point where I want to do something else now? Or is there still something in me that I haven't gotten out yet? That's not going to sound like the person who was hungry 20 years ago.
Well, for whatever reason, that brought out a hungry J. Cole. Because, don't take my word for it. Read the reviews, read the internet. They felt differently about this album than they have his previous albums. And we can disagree on why that is, but it sounded different. So,
okay. We can agree to disagree.
I win.
You don't win.
I did win.
How do you win? Like this
That
was
was a layup.
thing.
You gave me J. Cole, and then we saw that basically his whole point was, I'm that guy, you're not giving me credit. And the way I've been telling y'all, the way I've been explaining it to y'all in my music, y'all wasn't getting it. So let me say it differently. Yeah. And now people got it. Thanks.
Okay. Moving right along.
So we had a versus rematch in the spirit of things going and getting older and people coming back. And it was live at Live. Timbaland and Swiss Beats redid the original verses. I did not watch the original verses. Didn't know what it was at the time that it came out. There was actually a couple that happened that I did not know what they were and that they happened. So I would, I guess, need to go back and see them. But Live in Miami, there were some people that came out for the show. I was not sure what to expect, given that neither Timbaland nor Swiss necessarily raps or sings, but they're definitely much more in the producer bag, so to speak. So Timbaland came out, and I think it was Fendi or Versace, one of them, a shirt.
Tom Ford.
No, not Tom Ford.
No,
Timbaland?
Oh, no, yeah, Timbaland had Fendi on.
Yeah, and so he looked hot, and he was sweating through. I was surprised at the level of, and obviously they're friends, they're business partners, but Swiss was talking a lot.
He was talking big trash.
Rather aggressively.
The whole night.
I think a lot of that was in fun and in competition towards Timbaland. Towards Justin Timberlake, I don't know. And actually,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, afterwards, he seemed to kind of, maybe it was the alcohol that was in him, because he seemed afterwards, I think it was the next day, he kind of extended an olive branch, so to speak, to Justin, whenever you're ready, come on to Versus. So I still think he feels he needs to come to Versus. But the way in which he talked the night of the Versus,
it was disrespectful.
It was very disrespectful.
Like, the one part, like, he called him out, and then he did the song, and he put his middle finger up.
Every time a Justin Timberlake song got played, Swiss had a response.
And it started to get uncomfortable, especially, and I'm sure it was uncomfortable for Tim, because he works with them a lot. And so for me, it was super confusing, because I had this whole conversation with my sister. Like, if you scroll back through both of their timelines, Swiss was in the studio with Justin. Like Justin's working on a new album, so he was there with Timbaland and Swiss. So it's like, are you upset because something else is going on? Are you upset because you won't do verses? And that's another thing.
I mean, I definitely think it's because you won't do verses.
A lot of people feel like white folks shouldn't be on verses, though.
I think that's true, and I think that's context matters. Do I think they think John Mayer or Bono or Britney Spears,
not John Mayer and Bono,
or someone like that needs to be on Versus? Nah, probably not. Doesn't really resonate.
But white folks who are for the culture,
white folks that profit exponentially off of the culture owe it to the culture to give back. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with celebrities and access. If black people have supported you, you need to come do what black people are doing. And that's Versus. Especially when it sounds like they've been reaching out to you on more than one occasion. And why he hasn't done it, I don't know. I would love to hear that conversation as to what the conversation was. And my belief is, I'm guessing at that time when they were all in the studio, naturally, a Versus conversation probably happened. Because you got the two Versus founders there with you. And depending on how you responded to that Versus invitation, could make someone feel a certain type of way. And so I agree. I think it was awkward for Timbaland. However, he ain't saying nothing else to like refute it, or we working on something, or just give it time, or he did nothing to ease Swizz's frustrations. Go ahead.
So, and again, this is, I'll play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
You say he does things to profit off the culture, but he doesn't do anything for the culture. Like,
specifically the Versus.
I mean, okay, for specifically the Versus. If he doesn't want to do it, then he just doesn't want to do it.
But that's my point.
So
you don't get that choice.
Okay, why should it be okay for other artists to say no? And
because you're white.
It doesn't matter.
But it does. It definitely does. To me.
So the fact that he supports a lot of the, not necessarily Black Lives Matter stuff, but he's been super involved in like the George Floyd stuff with Breonna Taylor, stuff going on down in Memphis, super involved in that kind of thing. All of the artists that he works with, a lot of those artists are people from Memphis, like Black artists, puts people on, he supports his community and always has. But the fact that he won't do verses is beef.
Apparently, Swiss Beats thinks so.
I think that's ridiculous.
We disagree again. That you can do one, all that stuff you just named. That should just be a human reaction. Like, you shouldn't be doing that because they're Black. You should be doing that because they're talented. Like, don't give me a job just because I'm Black.
I'm not saying
give me a job because I'm qualified.
Black.
But then all of what you said doesn't matter. Like, he put on Black artists. No, he put on artists that could do their job well. Now, if he's skipping over white artists for Black artists to give them a chance, then that's a different conversation.
Which I'm sure he does, because again, most of the people, like Justin Timberlake and the Tennessee Kids, like that whole outfit, most of those artists are Black.
But you told me he was raised with Black people.
He was raised around Black culture.
Naturally, so he's raised around Black culture. He's profited off of Black culture. The least he could do is try and put some Black culture on, especially if y'all are making music or doing business together. So why wouldn't you go do verses when verses calls?
Because maybe he just doesn't want to, or he's got a conflicting schedule, or whatever.
Stop. Don't do that. A conflicting schedule for one night to do verses? He that busy?
I'm not saying that those are the exact reasons
Verses been going on over a year.
Right, and there's plenty of artists that I can think of that have said no, they don't want to do it.
That are on his level, that are white.
No, I'm just saying
his race matters in this conversation.
But I think that's stupid. I think that's really dumb. Personally. And I mean that respectfully, I guess. I don't know.
So, okay. I'm not going. I can't do it. Like, I have no idea how you exclude the fact that he's white. He's grown up around Black people. He's gotten embraced by Black people. You said, looked out for Black people, but he doesn't want to do verses.
There's plenty.
I'm pretty sure when because Men in Woods to me sucked, but if he's going to go on tour at some point, if he's going to do more music, verses seems like the fitting platform. That's what most people do. They do verses and then they drop an album or they drop a single because it's a big stage. So
I mean,
there is no logical reason for him to not do verses to me.
So for the caliber of artists that they're getting, like most of them aren't people who've been super in the spotlight over the last couple of years anyway. Like, with the exception of the producers, like, a lot of artists say no just because they don't want to do it. They don't need to do it. They don't need the publicity, the promotion, or anything like that. They're getting B-listers, basically. We'll put it that way. That are popular. They have a following, a fan base, people that love them, and they can reach in a bag of seven albums.
Before the switch to Triller, they was getting Snoop, DMX. They was getting Jada, Fab.
Right.
They was getting...
So, when was the last Fab album that you listened to?
Album, I'm not sure, but he just had a Vegas residency not that long ago.
Right, and no disrespect to his residency, but what was the last Jadakiss album you listened to?
He had one fairly recently, actually.
You listened to it?
I listened to it.
But you can't remember when it came out.
I mean, I can't remember J. Cole's album, so...
But that's different. You don't really listen to J. Cole. So, Keisha Cole and Ashanti, their last albums.
They still had been... Ashanti was just on Wayne's album. And she's done other stuff.
When was her last hit on top? 100 billboards.
I have no idea.
So again, like, it's not that they're not getting people who are worth watching.
So what you're saying is they shouldn't have done Jeezy and Gucci because they hadn't had recent hits.
No, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is there's.
So when they had Luda and Nelly, they shouldn't have had them because they hadn't been making music recently.
Can I finish my point?
I'm asking a question.
What I'm saying is it's more obviously they can get those people, but they're getting people who aren't putting out music right now. Like Nelly dropped. No, who was it? Jeezy dropped the album right after the Gucci battle. Mm-hmm. You didn't even like the album. I think I heard you listen to it. I didn't say I didn't like it. I said it wasn't as good as old stuff. Exactly. You didn't really like it. I think I've heard you listen to it like once. Maybe.
I listen to a bunch of music when I'm not around you. What do you...
Okay. Stop. All I'm saying is that it's not like they're getting that A-list. Like, there's never probably going to be a Lil Baby versus. There's probably never going to be a Meg Thee Stallion versus.
She doesn't have 20 songs. Baby don't got 20 songs. What do you mean?
Those are the people that are super hot right now.
But they don't have 20 songs.
That don't need the publicity.
They don't have 20 songs.
There are other artists that are out that are super popular.
Like who? Who has 20 songs? 20 hits. Not just 20 songs.
But at this point, they're not just doing hits because we've watched Versus and they played songs that we didn't know.
The majority of the people are playing hits. When Earth, Wind, and Fire did that joint.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
And the Isley
Brothers. You're talking about people who had careers for 50 years.
You have to have a long career to have 20 hits. That's what you're missing. You want them to do a Moneybagg Yo versus? Moneybagg Yo don't got 20 hits. He hasn't been doing it long enough to do that. Justin Timberlake has. Mm-hmm. Jeezy has. Gucci has. T-Pain has. Lil Jon has. Scott Storch has. Luda has. Nelly has. The people that they get, you got to have 20 hits worth of songs that people ain't going to watch.
Nelly didn't have 20 hits.
Nelly did have 20 hits.
All of those songs were not hits. All of those songs were not hits.
Okay.
They were good songs.
So yes, hits. And I didn't watch the SWV and whoever the other girl group was. Who is that?
But you're making my point. Like, but these are people...
I think that was after Triller, right? That wasn't on Apple Music.
No, yeah, that was after Triller.
So
Escape
after Triller
is the name of the group that's escaping you.
Yeah. So after Triller, we got the Raekwon and Ghostface. We got the Method and Redman for 420, which that was a better list. But I agree. When you start talking B-listers, sorry, Method and Red, they're the B-list to me. Like, you can hate me all you want. They're not on the level of Snoop Dogg, DMX, and a lot of those other people that came before them. Raekwon, again, not on that level.
But he had 20 hits.
He did, but you got to have a catalog. When you got E40 and Too Short, you got 20 hits. You got people that have longevity in the game. You know how long you got to be in the game to have 20 hits or 20 popular songs, even if it's not Billboard #1. That when someone turns it on, they're like, I know that song. I remember that. Or John Legend, Alicia Keys. Like, the younger popping artists today that's on your top 100, they ain't got that. Mm-hmm. So you can't put them on the platform, or their brand, their handlers are going to be like, don't do it. Because you don't got 20 hits, and when it's exposed to the world, and that big of a platform that you ain't got 20 hits, that's bad publicity.
Bad publicity.
And you don't want that. Not when you're hot right now. So we won't see a Meg. We won't see a Cardi. But we had a Brandy and Monica. And it was great.
You didn't even watch it.
I did watch some of it. And I listened to it. I could hear it when you was watching it.
Well,
I was editing a pod.
We weren't even doing the podcast yet.
Why was I was upstairs. When was that?
We weren't even doing the podcast yet.
When was it?
Look at you lying to the people.
I was upstairs working on something.
Lying to the people.
I was listening with Brandy and Monica.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all, because he did not watch that with me.
I did. I heard you talking about it.
You were downstairs. Me and Courtney were upstairs in our bedroom jamming, and you would not watch it with me. You told me before it even came on, I'm not watching that. I don't want to. The same reason you
I did not want to watch it, but I did listen to it. And I know it was beefing and it was really awkward at certain parts, and then they did the song together at the end.
Boy, stop.
That didn't happen?
It did happen, but I told you that it happened.
And then I had started watching it with you because Monica was wearing the Fendi little jumpsuit joint.
Bruh, you know that because it was all over the internet.
It was not. So it was on the internet where I was looking?
I'm sure it was.
Where?
You were on Instagram. You did not watch that verse.
I did not watch the whole verses. I agree, but I watched portions and I heard it, which is why I just gave you multiple things that occurred.
Because I told you about
no, you
it
did
afterwards.
not. Oh my God. All right, we're moving on.
Stop lying to the people.
We're moving on. It was not during our podcast time, but I did watch some of it as I just detailed to you all. So,
okay.
The last thing we got, because what has become the norm for us, we don't have a clock. I have no idea where we are on time. So hopefully we're doing okay. So I'm just gonna go to this last thing because I think it's enough time and I don't want things to go wrong. So the important part of this is we talked about different artists and we talked about their personal lives. We've talked about the type of music that they make and depending on how they're feeling. So what do I want to say? How do I want to phrase this? How do I want to phrase it? So, can you separate the artist from the art? And I think the prime example that we have is R. Kelly, who, if he was in the verses, would wipe the floor with a ton of people.
But I would not watch that.
Because of the artist.
He is a nasty man.
He's still innocent until proven guilty.
He's not singing to me. He's not singing to grown women. He's singing to little girls. Period.
So you're putting yourself in his brain and you're thinking for him.
I'm not. I'm just going off of what I see.
I've listened to Sam Smith and there's a bunch of male artists that are not singing to women.
Yeah, okay.
And when I think about singing a love song, I'm thinking about singing it to a woman. But regardless, if you're another artist, you're singing to people of a different culture. I don't care, personally, who you're singing to. For me, if you are talented, I will support you. There are women and men that are murderers, drug dealers, domestic violence offenders, in some cases, pedophiles, and they make great music. They write great music. And I think we know where you stand. I would be curious to know where your level is, because you're a huge Chris Brown fan, and he has his history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Justin Bieber fan. He has said some things in the past. He should not have said. There's a bunch of artists that have beat murder raps. There's a bunch of artists that rap about the people that they've killed and the drugs that they've sold and the lives that have been ruined because of it. So, where is the line? Is it, you can rap about everything, but if you rap to young girls, I'm out? Like, what is your standard?
I mean, I guess I don't think I've ever thought about it in that context. What's the hard line for me? Like, I can support an artist, I guess until, with the exception of R. Kelly. I think R. Kelly is just a hard no for me on every level.
Even though it's generally hypocritical.
Fine, I'll be a hypocrite in this instance then. I'll eat that. The whole Chris Brown, Rihanna thing, I was pissed when I heard about it, obviously, all those years ago. But I think what is frequently failed to mention, all those people who accused him later, he's been exonerated. Like, all these people who said that this happened or that happened, and then it comes back, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen, or they settled?
It didn't happen.
Ever. None of his allegations. Any of them.
With the exception of Karuchi, I actually don't know how to pronounce her name.
It doesn't matter.
Where she successfully was able to get a restraining order against him. All of the other times that he's been accused of abusing or domestic violence or anything like that, the case either fell apart or something happened to prove that he didn't really do it. Like the chick who said he held her hostage.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, that was all over the news for like a week. And then when it came out, that's not what really happened. Nobody reported on that.
I mean, that's
ridiculous
all
to
the
me.
case. Go ahead. Let you finish.
Like murdering. I don't think that I can't think of people that I listen to have murdered somebody. Like they.
So. And I don't think well, we make it famous enough that one day this stuff could come back to bite us. But my belief is that
most of the rappers we listen
to, if they did not pull the trigger,
they orchestrated the
orchestrated it in some form or fashion. Joe Budden has said allegedly many times he was responsible for many breaking and enterings.
And see, and that's the thing too. I guess maybe the hard line for me is a conviction in the court of law, I guess.
R. Kelly don't got that.
But it's already been proven that he did it. Like,
but he doesn't. You said a conviction in the court of law.
I already told you that R. Kelly is my exception. And if that makes me a hypocrite, then it makes me a hypocrite.
So Bobby Smurder has a conviction. So when Bobby drops, you're not listening to Bobby.
I guess. I don't know. Like, I listened to that one song. I can't think of the name of it. And I listened to it casually, and then everything happened, and I ain't thought about it.
T.I. got a ton of convictions.
And I don't really listen to him no more.
You was listening to him when he was still getting convictions.
Yeah, those were gun charges. I'm alright with gun charges. People gotta protect themselves.
So, okay. Perfect. I'm glad we're there. So T.I. has a bunch of allegations going on right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
With women. Right?
Yeah.
Held them hostage, kidnapping, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
You completely out on T.I.?
If that turns out to be true and all of that, yeah. Because that's gross.
So, the very same standard that you're using for R. Kelly, which I know you keep saying that he's different, but what I don't understand is how he's different from someone like T.I.
I mean,
and T.I. to me is much worse.
A big portion of it is because they're underage girls. It's a big...
So you didn't date anybody over 18 until you got to 18. Okay then. Thank you very much. We all went to high school with girls that was dating older men. That is rape.
Really?
You can't do this.
Oh man! Well,
you gotta pick a side.
In that context, then no, I didn't date older men when we were in high school.
So, up until you were 18, you never had any involvement, any kind of instances where you were with someone over 18.
Correct.
Okay. Let me tell you, you were in the minority. We have a bunch of friends. Some of them are married today.
Yeah.
That when they met, they were not on equal footing as far as age goes. Not even close. Kylie was running around with Tiger for a long time. As a child.
And I thought that was gross. I didn't understand that at all.
I didn't either. And I'm not even going to say that because he can't defend himself. But Aaliyah was associated with a number of men when she was young. And there's a bunch of other women that have dated and been with older men. So I don't get your stance on someone that doesn't fit any of your criteria, but you just don't like the man. That's fine. But
it's not that I just don't like
you. It is. That's the only reason you have is you just don't like him. He hasn't been convicted of anything.
Then why is he in jail?
He's awaiting trial. Do you know how this trial system works? You
That's
know how bail works? They because he's a flight risk, they won't give him bail. They think they have a good case, but if their case was that iron shut, Why hasn't he gone to trial yet? He did the interview with, I don't think it was Gail. Was it Gail King? He did the interview with whoever.
Yeah, it was Gail.
That was before the pandemic.
Yeah, it was.
And so he's just
The
sitting in
only
jail.
reason he got
He's
off the
supposed to
first-
have a right. That doesn't matter because you said that there's no conviction. It don't matter. And we got a bunch of people that beat cases that they shouldn't have beat. OJ being the first. And karma caught up. I don't believe in karma, but he got his.
That's because he was stupid.
He was. Very.
Go ahead and make your point, Ray.
I mean, my points are made. You made my point. I believe, for me personally, I separate the artist from the art. If you make great music, if you can act really well, if the Cosby Show came on tonight, I would watch it. And there's a conviction there. If other shows came on, I'd watch them. If certain artists' music come on, I'm gonna listen to it if I like it because the songs are dope. So that's our show. I know we're really close on time. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We look to be back with you guys here shortly. We are continuing to work on a lot of different things. So continue to like, share, and subscribe to The Bond Chronicles on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. And as I have been passionately working on a way to close us out properly, I would appreciate your feedback on our new outro.
Oh, yeah.
That in life, things happen, as we've talked about today. You have the power to choose what you do, choose wisely, and always bet on you. Until next week.